If you just looked at me once in a while.
Okay, we're rolling.
All right. Hey, what's going on, guys?
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Let me get this going. So I'm with Troy Scott of JB Marketing Group, and we're going to talk about an email campaign that failed.
Yep.
Failed pretty miserably, right?
Yeah, miserably failure. And I think it's an important teaching point because a lot of folks don't really talk about their massive failures, at least publicly. And this is a 50,000 email campaign that went out to a cold list. And I think it's
50,000.
Yeah, 50,000 emails. So essentially, you can go to a brokerage house, buy a targeted email group. This is all above board, white hat, so to speak, and be able to set up a list to a targeted demographic. So in this case, we were focusing a couple of targets on cities within the Bay Area, and one of the clients here is Heavenly Green. So artificial turf is the niche, and these are two different marketing messages. Okay, this is essentially talking about a tax credit, and then this one over here is targeting Foster City specifically, and Foster City will pay people up to $3,000 to install artificial turf. So that's kind of a great value proposition, A, because of water resource issues here in Northern California, and really California in general. And then the fact that Foster City will pay you $3,000 to install artificial turf. Pretty cool.
Okay, so your client is a turf installer, artificial turf installer.
Correct.
And so this was an ad that they sent out.
Yep.
So did you put up a web page? Or?
Yeah. So let me tell you a little bit about how we deployed this. We sent out to a cold list, and whenever you send out to a cold list, you already need to have lower expectations because you're not in a permission-based marketing mechanism. You're like lobbing softballs into the market. So your open rate should be pretty low. Your click-through rate should be even lower. And as a direct result of that, your conversion rates are going to be lower than with warm traffic. But what we did here, because Wayne was talking about the what we call congruency, right, from the top of the marketing message to the bottom, we sent out what we considered to be a decent call to action: save $3,000 or get paid $3,000 or use this other program, some clever financing. And what we saw was what you would expect. Decent open rates, right? So we had an open rate on this one at about 13%. We had an open rate on this one at about 13.5%. And then you have what's called the click rates, right? So now you got a next metric, which is 1.8 on a click percent, and then a 1.9 on a click percent. Remember, we talked that they're going to be lower, but we had absolutely, let me just grab this other document over here. We had an absolute horrible result. So here are our email blasts going out, and this trails off over on this end. And then as you look over here, we've got all of our UTM tracking code, which is fancy for AdWords remarketing ads and so forth. And we can see that these ads produce some clicks and so forth. But at the end of the day, we don't really care about these clicks, right? We care about this column, and we've got a big fat donut here all the way down. So this
would you call that conversions, basically?
Yeah, these are the third part of the story, right? One is your open rate, two is the click rates within the ad, and then third would be your your conversion rate.
So just on this chart, the first column,
that's the first day the blast went out.
Okay.
It's in the market and continuing in the market, and we had continued follow-up.
So how many opens went out on the first, or how many were opened on that first day? Was that?
I'd have to click back in this box,
but it's hundreds, right?
No, thousands opened. We had a total open of about looks like about 6,500. Because remember, we got two different campaigns here, right. And what you would expect happened, and that is because when you buy a list, you don't have permission to market to that list, right? You're just sending cold traffic. Two, the message congruency has to do with what that audience is expecting. If you've got a cold audience, the audience is really just, they're going to look at whatever you sent out, and it's either got a pretty picture of it or it doesn't. The other part about this is the delivery platform. So we used a third-party platform, which you may have seen these emails in your inbox before. When you open an email up and all you see is broken imagery and you're expected to click a button up there that says display image, most people aren't going to click that button, right? Because you're like, what is this? I don't want that picture. That's another reason the fall off happens. And then thirdly, when you do click that image, you don't have any idea what the image is going to be because you're really just basing things on the headline, that whatever the copy was that actually had the user open things up. There was no lead in to the value proposition within the email. So as a result, that's what happened. And go ahead.
I had somebody ask who's in real estate and wanted to know if you could give them advice on how to do marketing for
Yeah,
sales
absolutely.
leads.
Troy at JV Marketing Group. Troy at jvmarketinggroup.com. We could chat about it. But at the end of the day, like someone just asked the question in the feed with a real estate business, chances are you're cultivating your network, you're cultivating a warm market, and you can take this approach, spend actually a little bit of money, $2,500, $3,000 a month, to a cold list and build a list, right? You could do that as well. So there's a lot of strategy you can pull off there. And then at the end of the day, the results are what we kind of expected from a cold list, based on the image issue, based on no text leading in to why you should actually click that image. And this is in the body of the email itself. And then once the image was actually realized, the net value proposition that image means to the user is what you're actually going to get on your clicks. So your click through drops significantly. And then the third component, which is what we talked about over here, which is the actual conversions turned into a 0. So there's a lot of reasons that happened, and I sort of babbled a little bit, but those components that lead up to total ad congruency, if those are not in alignment, this is what happens with email marketing.
Okay, so the three components were, one, you had graphics that...
The three components are as follows. Your list, the warmth you have with your list.
Okay, so it's a list that... It's a cold list. You haven't developed any people that have said they want to subscribe.
Yeah, they haven't sort of mentally opted in for your information, right? If they've got a few emails from you and you've got a little bit of a relationship and you've already positioned on value first, you're not asking for anything. Okay. You've got a better position on the open side.
Okay. The second one was what?
The second one is actually the marketing message and the value proposition of the email itself. And in this case, we're selling. So we're already going to be down on numbers, but with the drought, we sort of hedged our bet a little bit, and then the true value of having a city give you $3,000 cash to install artificial turf is a great deal. So we expected a little bit more than a donut, but that's the third piece is actually the landing page, right? So you've got your email, your marketing message, your headline copy, the body. In this case, we couldn't do anything on the text side of the body. We had to stick with an image, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Because the image, when you hit the display image button, this is what would pop up.
Okay.
And the landing page is the final component, right? The landing page, you need to be able to present more value, present another reason on why this person needs to opt in for your offer.
Okay. Okay, great. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Some money.
Don't get a donut when you spend $3,000, but learn from it and make sure you improve on your results.
Okay, great. All right, thanks a lot, Troy.
You got it.
I'll see you later.